So just a couple of performance notes on this piece. One thing, there's a number of difficult chords in the left hand. A moderate tempo, it says Largo, so a fairly moderate tempo, but of a bit of a bounce and a little bit of a detachment to the sound would be pretty good. Just like a little tiny bit of rather than, it doesn't have to be like perfectly legato, it could be a little bit detached but sustained, so all the notes should have sostenutos on them, so no disconnection in terms of like staccato, no staccato, but just a little bit of detachment to navigate some of those chords. I'd also recommend that you could consider editing out some of the notes. I played all of them, but some of them are pretty awkward, so you could consider editing them out to make them easier, just keeping that main melodic lines going through the piece. Right hand fingering is a little bit tough too. There's lots of like 3-finger combos, but for the main thing, play the bass line with the thumb. Pretty straightforward there, and use your fingers for the top notes. Lots of chords, so there's going to be repeated fingers. You have to sometimes. And in those 3-note figures, especially when there's chords involved, there's just going to be a repeated finger. So you play the chord with any group of 3 fingers, including the thumb, and then you just have to alternate 2 of the other ones and then re-grab the chord. There's nothing you can really do when the texture is this thick. So let's just do a quick walkthrough of the piece, and I'll point out some of the tricky little sections. It's short, so it's not too tricky, but there are some difficult fingerings here and there. This is fairly straightforward. You could reach out 3 if you want, but I use 4 and then I just change my fingering. It's kind of tricky. She uses 4 in her edition, and then you just have to change your fingering on the next bar. But if you do that slight bit of detachment, it won't be very noticeable. I do a bar here just so I can sustain those upper notes. She actually doesn't. She brings the 3rd finger down, but that lets go of the sustain of those upper note values. So it's kind of a fingering error on her part, but at the same time, her idea is really good. It just makes it easier. So I did do a little bit of a bar there, and then just jump. I prefer my way, but like I said, you could just do that. It's a lot easier, and it's what she wrote. This is a little bit awkward, but it's not so bad. Just you have to be really ready for it. So that 2, 3, 4 combination, some people might find it difficult. There is a rest on the next bar, so you could use 1 and then bring your first finger over, but it's a little awkward as well. So either way, some awkwardness. This is certainly the best fingering in terms of getting the next note right. Then you have to jump. This is also kind of awkward, but works out nicely for the next bar note. So that's pretty straightforward. These chords on the second ending, nothing you can do, just jump your fingers around. I use 1 here, but you could use 2. 2 is probably better, but it's a little bit tough to not make it sound kind of disconnected, so I snuck 1 way up there, but that's pretty cramped. I don't know if many people will like that. And you have to get it back for the C. So up to you. Probably 2 is the best option, but I'm able to sneak my first finger in there, so I did it. These E's, I double the E's up. So when there's a down stem and an up stem, I use both strings at the same time. You could just do open. I use both. Those chords, just do them slightly detached. It's fine. Bar 4. Sorry, bar 5, get these 2 in there. It's actually a pretty stable little thing to do there, so it's not that difficult. You could do a barré here with third finger, but it's hard to get into the chord afterwards from the barré. So I've actually been doing an A chord like this, and then putting the fourth finger in there, because it's just easier to get to that D minor chord. But this is a better shape. Either fingering I think is fine, just whatever you prefer. There's so much jumping around, it doesn't really matter. Here I'm doing P-I, P-I. You could easily do repeated thumb, right? It's not that fast. I use P-I, P-I just for alternation reasons. Sometimes it's easier to sweep through them when you're doing alternating. So, up to you. Just, that's an easy chord to switch. I like to do a bar here. I finger this part with 2, 3, 1 in a bar. That way I can just slide the third finger down with the bar. Now, she does the E with the first finger. She goes, and then she must reposition her bar. Or maybe she does a hinge bar or something. It's kind of impractical though, so I've been doing this weird thing. 2, 2. Pretty awkward. You might not like that. If it's awkward for you, just play the E with your first finger. And who cares about the chord so much? I do that second finger thing because then I can keep 3 down for this chord that comes afterwards, right? Oops, yeah. Really stable, but really weird too. So that's why I use the second finger there. But that said, she uses 1, probably just repositions the bar and loses some sustain, but that's okay. So I'll let you decide what you prefer there. Ending's nice and easy. I'm tempted to play this piece a lot faster, almost like a tarantella or something like that, but it is a funeral march. I think you should keep it, and it says Largo, so I would keep it pretty slow and aim for that. Besides that, just work out some of those fingerings. They're not that hard, but they're definitely something to consider, and I couldn't really decide exactly what fingerings I wanted, so I chose these ones, but those few places that I pointed out, do explore them in case they work better for you. That might be really worth it.